I feel like I have like ideas firing through my brain all day and like just like sifting through the ones that I actually want to like put on the canvas.
Inspired by women, nature, patterns, bold color, and unlikely materials, Meredith Steele's goal is to add joyful energy to her clients' walls. Exploration and experimentation are at the foundation of her artwork. Her work includes everything from large art and floral installations to custom hand-painted murals and original paintings. Hi, listeners, and welcome back to Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions, your one-stop shop for fine contemporary art leasing and sales. Today, I am so excited to be interviewing Meredith Steele, a new painter from the Art Dimensions roster. Meredith is based in Denver, Colorado. She creates abstract paintings, figures, and prints, all of which are super cool. So let's dive in. Hi, Meredith. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you. I'm excited you're here too. How are you today?
I am great. Yeah. I just released a new series last week, so I'm excited to talk to you and take a little break from nonstop painting in the studio.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm very happy you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to do this. All right, let's go. Why painting for you rather than another medium such as photography or sculpture?
So I discovered my love for painting in college, actually. I took some art classes as my electives, and they turned out to be my favorite classes. And painting, I was drawn to because it felt like they were never actually done. Like you could always paint over something and try again. And I just loved that aspect of it. And my painting teacher actually was just so amazing. I had him 3 years in a row, and I can't even really explain it because in high school and growing up, I was so into sports and not necessarily the most creative kid. So finding it a little bit later in life, it was just like really interesting to find my passion at that time. And I will say that I do include a lot of materials in my work, so it's not necessarily sculpture, but I do like to use a lot of different mediums and materials too. So, yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite aspect about being an artist?
I think being in control of my own time and having the flexibility to experiment and explore different approaches to things, it feels very freeing to be able to try something new without, anyone else's permission. Being able to, yeah, just explore different things and try new things. And, you know, I feel like I have like ideas firing through my brain all day and like just like sifting through the ones that I actually want to like put on the canvas. Yeah. So I think just like the control of that is probably one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Okay, what's the hardest part about being an artist?
One of the hardest things for me was thinking about my artwork as a business. And, you know, there's all different kinds of artists out there. Some people aren't full time, but if you are trying to become a full time artist, I think learning how to run a business is essential, and learning when and who to delegate things to. You can't really do it all, and hiring help is definitely going to make you more productive and allow you to focus on your actual artwork. So, hiring an accountant to take care of the finances or hiring a photographer to take your photos, just like something like finding out where you need help and like what is going to be the most helpful for you to be successful, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so that's so well articulated. I usually don't ask this question until towards the end of the interview, but what would be your advice for emerging artists or people who want to get into the field?
Similar to what I just said is like finding the help you need, because you can't do it all. And like as a business owner at all, like no matter what industry you're in, you're going to wear a lot of hats, right? But figuring out what hats you actually want to wear and are good at wearing, and then what is, who is going to help you become successful. And I also think another bit of advice I have is to just, in terms of your work, is to just stay curious and like continue to try new things and don't feel like you have to be in one lane forever. A lot of times now people think that you have to have a style, or like you paint botanicals or you paint figures, but you can try so many different things. And yeah, so just stay curious and stay creative. Yeah.
Great advice. What are you up to these days in your studio?
Like I mentioned, I just finished a series called Meanings of Color, and it's 20 paintings, mixed media paintings, all based on color, the emotionality of color, and how different color palettes make us feel when we look at them. And I've been working on this series since February. So it's been really fun to, get to the finish line with it. I just released that last week. So I have a few commissions that I'm going to kind of transition to working on, which will be a nice change of pace, and then kind of regroup and think about what I want to do next, which is kind of how I like to work. I like to work on one collection at a time.
Okay, now you mentioned mixed media. So what are these paintings made from? Acrylic, oil, spray paint? What are they?
I usually like to use acrylic and gouache paint, and then I will mix a bunch of different mediums with that acrylic paint. Like there's some matte mediums, some gloss mediums, some sandy texture mediums. And then I have also used an epoxy resin on some of them in some areas. Some of the pieces, they're completely covered, and some it's just certain shapes are. So there's like the effect of, gloss next to like a really matte color. I played with that a lot with this series.
I want everyone to know that you can see these amazing abstracts at meredithsteeleart.com. And Steele is Steele. So it's Meredith, MEredithSteeleart.com. So make sure you check those out. Back to us. Besides the abstracts, what other series do you have? You tell us about the figures that you and I have had some luck with leasing to TV shows.
I started my art career in Charleston, and there I opened my first studio, and one of my first series or collections of work that I released was called A Collection of Her. I think it was about 20 pieces that I made of various sizes, and they constructed women through all different kinds of materials, paint, fabric, textiles, wire, wood. It was really inspired by my love for fashion and just textiles in general. And like, I just wanted to create, strong, colorful women, and all different kinds of, facial expressions and poses. And it was just a really fun way to use a bunch of different materials. So that was one of the figure series. And then the second figure series that I released was when I moved to Denver, and it was called Spectrum. And those were a little bit bigger pieces, and they constructed, the full body of a woman and all different kinds of poses, but same kind of approach with the mixed media style.
So what about the series, The Goldens? Where does that fall?
Something else that I like to do is when I'm, I have an idea or I want to explore something, I'll do like a little mini series. So I'll give myself, 2 weeks to create 3 or 4 paintings, just almost like more studies than like full collections. Cause like I said, sometimes these collections can take 6 months. So I did like a little mini series called Golden, and they were acrylic figures, and they were more, I would say, like painterly than the mixed media stuff that I've done. But yeah, they were really fun. And the Denver International Airport, actually 2 of them are displayed there, which is really exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Meredith, do you ever get painter's block? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I do sometimes. I guess I do, but I don't really let myself like totally fall into it, because I think that something that I found that helps is like doing the mini series, like doing 15 small sketches, or just like trying a completely new material or medium and just, making it feel fresh and different. Like if something is just like not working and you're hitting a wall, like totally change it up. So I started something last year that I got a little too busy in the past few months to continue with it, but it was called the Sunday series. And every Sunday I would sit down for a couple hours and just do like tiny little paintings, different themes every week, and just, a way to kind of just explore and experiment and, try to come up with new ideas and ways of doing things. So
Were those on canvas or were those on paper or?
usually paper, yeah. And it's also it's not that expensive to go through a bunch of different pieces of paper every Sunday. It was just a very easy, low cost way to experiment.
I mean, other artists have said they take out a sketch pad and they just start doodling, or they start,
Yeah, same
you know,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
that painter's block, if you do get painter's block, to get that out of the way. What are your favorite materials to work with and why?
Paint wise, like I said, I do tend to like the acrylic and the gouache best. But again, I'm constantly trying new things. I mean, I've tried really letting paint sit out for a while to get it really, really goopy before I'm using it. So it has like a very 3D effect on the canvas. Another little tip is like, I love getting the little sample paints from Home Depot. They come in like, they're like really tiny, but they're $6 and you can get like a bunch of different colors. And that's a fun way to experiment with a bunch of different color palettes at a pretty low cost. But I think as far as paint, it's like acrylic and gouache. And then right now I'm just kind of using a bunch of different mediums to kind of manipulate them and their finishes.
Okay, now that's for paint, but what about the materials that you used with like the fabric and the wire and
Oh
the,
yeah, mixed media. So
yeah.
yeah, I have a huge chest in my studio that's full of clothes, whether they're mine or my friends that they were gonna, give to Goodwill, or like an old pillow. Like I've just used so many different materials and I cut them up and include them in my paintings. And, I also use buttons from shirts that I no longer wear, or zippers or tags. And it's just been like a really fun, funky way to include textiles and on these paintings of the women. Yeah, and then I also like to include like wire and wood and all different like,
Such fun materials.
yeah, really fun.
All of your work is really joyful and really, I want to say fun,
Yeah.
like I love
Yeah.
your pieces.
I love that you want to say that. Yeah.
Oh, good, good.
Makes me happy.
So what do you hope people will get from your paintings?
I hope people will get, I mean, you just kind of said the
Yeah, like
word,
a
but
sense of joy.
joy, really. I mean, I think that like as people start to build an art collection, it's like filling your wall with meaningful, joyful, and storytelling pieces. I really think can lead to a happier day to day. And I just want to help people create an atmosphere that looks good, but more importantly, feels good, and I hope that my pieces can do that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you just said that. I want to read something from an article. This just sort of piggybacks on what you just said. There's an article on your website from the Cherry Creek Lifestyle magazine, I guess.
Mhm.
I love the topic sentence. It said, with millions of ideas swirling like freshly mixed paint in her head, Meredith Steele prioritizes joy in everything she creates. A Denver-based mixed media artist, Steele is an explorer of new methods and eclectic materials, moved wholeheartedly by creation itself before anything else. So I think that really
Yeah.
expresses well what you just said about
Yeah.
your process.
Yeah. Whoever wrote that is a great writer and said it better than I can. But yes, yes.
If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
I should have mentioned this too. I own a company called Magic Studios with a friend who's also an artist. And we focus on murals for residential and commercial clients. But something we both have talked about wanting to do is paint more artwork for and murals in hospitals. My sister she was a nurse at Duke on the children's oncology floor. And and I just like through her friends and so many other friends that work in the healthcare industry, I just feel like hospitals are the place where you go in and it's just, they don't have to be as bleak as they are. And I think that they would have like murals there and like artwork there would just have such a huge impact. And I've really been trying to figure out a way to make that happen, actually. So if I had $1 million, that is what I would do, all around the country. And yeah.
Incredible.
Mhm.
That means a lot, I know, to you. And I think that would be a fantastic way to spend $1 million. And it would just be so beneficial for all the patients,
Yeah,
lifting spirits and generating conversation. And
exactly. Yeah.
I want to wrap up a little bit and talk about your inspiration. What inspires you to paint?
I think it changes, as we all do, from time to time, but it just feels like for me, who I'm around and what I'm surrounding myself with inspires me the most. I do have so many creative friends in Denver, and I think that like just seeing what they're working on, getting their feedback, and that is such a big part of my process too. And then I think for my latest series, just the color, like wanting to really take it back to the basics too, like thinking about, okay, I was painting abstracts that had so many layers of color. And I'm like, but what if I really thought about intentionally what 3 colors could go on this canvas? And it was such an interesting way to, take it back to like rudimentary levels. And that's where my head has been recently. But, there's just so many different things. When I'm painting figures, it's like thinking about like who this, character is that I'm creating on the canvas. So yeah, it definitely changes.
So the abstracts, there are 3 colors in each piece, although I see some with more.
Some have more, yes. It's just the palettes I used were very intentional and I picked them out before even starting the piece, if that makes sense. And some of them have even less than 3. Some of them are just 2 colors or 3 colors. Some of them feel like they have even more colors than they have because of the color relationships, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You get like a warm and a cool color next to each other. They're
Yeah.
so beautiful. Okay, I want to remind everyone again, check these out at Meredith Steele, Steele art.com. Meredith, this was so fantastic. Thank you so much for guesting on Beyond the Palette. Listeners, please take a look at Meredith's amazing works at artdimensionsonline.com. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at Meredith Steele Art. And you can also follow Art Dimensions at Art Dimensions. Lastly, please rate and review this podcast. It's truly what helps us get more listeners. And you can do that on Apple Podcasts. So I want to ask you before I sign off, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know about you?
That I'm here and I'm always creating. And if anybody has any questions or wants any advice or just my take on stuff, please feel free to reach out.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And they can reach you through your website, right?
Yes, my email's on there, my Instagram's on there, and I would love to connect.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. Remember that Beyond the Palette is now dropping on the second Thursday every month. So to all of you out there and to Meredith Steele, I hope everybody has a productive and happy week and happy creating.